up, friends?
Hi, friends. It's Caitlin and Shanika. Yes, I'm back. I hope you missed me.
This is the first time you've had Shanika and Caitlin together for the first time this year, okay?
Yeah, it's
Happy
worth
New Year, Shanika.
celebrating. Thank you. It's us from Get Checkered, which is part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown and community supported. As Caitlin mentioned, this is my first time back. And also Caitlin and I haven't talked in like a week. So we're just gonna talk about like everything else before we dive into the headlines we saw this week, plus a little bit about Aquarius season and our boy Georgie Russell. So Caitlin, how is it over there?
Yeah, so I've been in Vancouver. It's been like 2 weeks now. It's okay. We were told from the UBC that courses are extended online. We were originally thinking we go back to in-person classes tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we're not. So I'm in Vancouver on campus taking online courses. So I don't know. It's not what I imagined the start of this degree to look like, TBH.
Yeah, I feel for you. But you're not missing out on too much because here in Calgary, we also are still in not a lockdown, but I think everyone is just avoiding going out.
Fair enough.
Are
you staying clear of the COVID, of the illness?
Of the illness?
The sickness?
On YouTube, are we gonna get dinged for saying COVID? Yeah, so I have not gotten sick yet, which is surprising. But I also haven't seen anyone since forever. So my work is still online, which is fine. We work in a hybrid environment anyways, but it looks like that's going to be extended even further, probably until the end of February. So that kind of sucks because I do like seeing my coworkers in person. So just haven't seen them. But because of that, I also haven't had that much opportunity to get like exposed to COVID. But all of my coworkers pretty much got COVID over the holidays, and all their kids are like now getting it because they're back in school. So it's just a bit of a mess here, if I'm being honest. Fair.
People were saying that like they think BC's like a week before Alberta. So if BC's peaked, then Alberta should peak sooner.
I hope so.
Peaked. I don't know.
I want this to be over or to get some semblance of normal again. It is anxiety inducing. I don't know, for me at least. I felt really nervous lately going out, which is not typical for me because I'm quite social, you know me. So it's been a little bit difficult. But I don't know, like everyone's done what they can, everyone's vaccinated, so we'll just see. It's just crazy that it's been like 2+ years of this. Hey,
I know. I was saying earlier today to some people, I'm like, I thought I waited long enough to come back to school, to be honest. And apparently I did not. So
you're doing the whole online experience and moved all the way for it. Caitlin, though, before she turned on the blurred background, if you're watching on YouTube, she got a new bike, y'all.
Hey, yeah. Shout out to Ed from Facebook Marketplace. He gave me a bike for free after he found out I was a student because he's like, I just want someone who's going to use it well. And like,
sweet.
It was so sweet. I was like, thank you. I really appreciate this. Poor student life. But I do have to do a tune-up of it, which is fine. But
a free bike.
Yeah, exciting. I can finally try to be fit or work everything I eat off.
Are you like in your desk? Would you say like 8 hours out of a day?
Oh, solid. Maybe even more. Yeah.
So that's what I've been struggling with over here. It's that, you work the normal work day and then, we're working on other things. So you just end up at your computer all day. And I paused my gym membership for the month just because Alberta's COVID numbers are kind of crazy. But now I'm getting like stir crazy. So it's not been great. Feel like I'm losing my goddamn mind.
Yeah. I don't know. And I think like the winter ties in with that. I know you guys are like the -30 right now, but you could get back there really soon. So
yeah, exactly. But trying to combat that, Shay and I, for those who don't know, my brother and I, we do not ski, but Caitlin's an avid skier, and so is literally everyone else in our life. So I asked him if he would be interested in taking ski lessons, and he said yes, which is super exciting. And we picked to do them in March, primarily because I was like, I don't have a lot of free time until then. but also because I was like, it's March. Like, how cold can it be in March?
Don't jinx yourself yet. But that is very exciting. I'm proud of you.
Right. So we'll see. I'm a little nervous.
When was the last time you skied?
I think I maybe did it like once when I was a kid. So I feel like this is just basically like back to the basics of like, for me, if after I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks of lessons, or 4 weeks actually, maybe, I don't know, whatever. After all those lessons, if I can just pizza and French fry like down a hill, I think that's enough. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not looking
it'll get you down a mountain. And then once you can get down a mountain, you can start just like doing it over and over, and you'll only get better from there.
Exactly. Right. So I'm like, even if that means, if we all go on future ski trips and I'm just like chilling at the bunny hill with the 5-year-olds, like as long as I can get down and like stop and get like just do that over and over again, I think I'll be fine. Like it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. And then, you're coming on ski trips with us.
Yeah. What fun. And just more expensive.
I know. Save up a little bit of money for that, but okay, the skiing here. Yeah. Dude, Whistler costs like $200 a day.
Who, like, in what world? Truly.
I'm just like,
in what world?
Do I want to go that badly? Debatable.
Is there any like student discount or anything like that that you can
okay, so what Allison told me is she thinks there's like if your friend has a season's pass, they might be able to get you something cheaper. And I'm like, I hope that's the case. I don't know. Do not hold me to my word, folks. I will have to look this up to verify, but that's the hope. But so it comes down to 100, which is still a lot of money for a day, but that's what I'm used to. So
that's so expensive. Skiing is just such speaking of expensive sports, skiing is also expensive because I got like the list from COP, which is Calgary, Canada Olympic Park here in Calgary. And it's not a mountain or anything like that. It just was like a hill that was made for the Olympics. But I was looking at just the cost of everything because they send you a list of like, hey, you need a helmet. Like this is what you can rent. This is what you should maybe buy, kind of thing. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. Like, thank God, I'm in a place where I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life. But like before, there was no way. My parents are immigrants. We had no money. So like totally makes sense. Skiing was not on their radar.
And like full transparency, I used to work at COP, right? I worked in the retail store, and it's like, so everyone that went into lessons, like you need to have like your own gloves, like your own like soft gear, like jackets, snow pants, etc. But you can rent stuff like your helmet, your skis, your boots, etc. So between us and the rental store and going to lessons, like it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. But I
remember though, there's this one guy. He came in every year to the retail store.
Yeah.
And he fostered kids, and every year he would bring his foster kids in, and he would buy them like all the ski gear they needed. And I was
That's
like,
so sweet.
It was so sweet.
That's so adorable.
Right.
The way that I see it, that this is just an investment into something hopefully I do more going forward.
It is. Yeah. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah. And if I, get any good, at least like, okay, so this time around, I'm not buying skis, obviously, because I'm like, okay, gotta wait it out. Also because end of the season typically is when there's like some really good sales, just at like the beginning of the season. So waiting for that kind of stuff, but I just like can't get over the cost, which makes it maybe deeply ironic that I'm like, yeah, but if I had the opportunity to also drive in Formula One, like I would do that.
Nice. So if you get into skiing, we can go with Pierre Gasly one day too. You saw his ski outfit. I cringed pretty hard when I saw his ski outfit, but
that's another thing, because on TikTok, because now I'm getting the ski TikToks, I think it's unreasonable because I've seen what you gals and like the people that we know wear when they're skiing, but then there are girls that just look like they're out of like 80s advertisements or something, just with their snowsuits. And I'm like, you look great, but also like I've never seen a single person I know like wear a head to toe silver suit with like a Gucci belt. Like I've never seen that.
We know one person who does.
Okay, you're giving me
we're not going there on this podcast. So. But like on a onesie note, Anisha and I, like we've done the like 80s onesies for skiing. You can do rentals in Calgary actually. which is super fun.
See,
So
that makes
now mine was a little bit too small when I rented it. Very difficult to squat.
Oh, okay. So like falling was not an option, or was it like
not really.
Okay.
Not a lot of flexibility in that outfit. It's fine. Regardless, how did we even get to this topic? But we have to get to F1 soon.
I know. Okay. So, I mean, before we jump into F1, we'll do a quick ad break. And our sponsor this week is Park Power. In Alberta, you get to choose who to buy your internet, electricity, natural gas from. Park Power has low overhead, which in turn allows them to offer low competitive rates. Reach out for a no obligations comparison by emailing estimates at parkpower.ca. If you decide to switch, it's easy. It's really just a change to your billing, and you can feel good knowing that you're helping to give back to our communities with your utilities bills. Learn more at parkpower.ca. All right. Now we're back into the weekly headlines. I don't know what's going on. There was like some stuff. It wasn't that exciting. There was nothing too saucy. But I found this article that I thought was funny because, okay, Caitlin, I don't know if you've ever watched this show, so you're gonna have to go with me here. Have you ever heard of the show like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous or something?
I think I would have heard of it. I know it's a I know it's a good Charlotte song, but that's
not helpful. Not helpful in this case. But it was basically this show, I feel like in the mid to late early 2000s-ish.
Do you like Cribs?
Yeah, it's like Cribs, but there was like this very specific man with a very specific voice who would just like talk about everything. Anyways, I think, I don't know, it just like was very over the top. You like learn about Beyonce and Jay-Z and their yachts and stuff like that. But I found this article from Essentially Sports that does a deep dive into Mateo Benito's lifestyle, which I thought was so funny because it felt like it was a play on the lifestyles of the rich and famous. And what I thought was the most interesting, though, is the cars he has, because obviously that's what matters most. He has a Ferrari, unsurprisingly, GTC for Lusso. I hope that's how we pronounce it. A Ferrari F12 and a Porsche Cayenne Turbo. First of all, he has a 3-car garage.
Okay, so we're talking about lifestyles of the rich and famous. 3 cars, nothing. but I get like if you live in Italy, space is not like really available. So, like, okay, so that's pretty impressive though. I do give him props.
Of course, the salary is a couple mil a year, whatever. But I just was like, where in Italy are you fitting 3 cars?
Does he have one of those like villas in Tuscany that's literally on its own hill?
I mean,
I could be friends with him if that's the case.
Not that I could see in the article, but I'm like, okay, maybe that's where he is, maybe that's how he solves the car problem, because I don't know how you would store all of that. But anyways, I will link the article in the description the podcast description, so you can just check out all the lavish things he owns.
Do you think he owns a Porsche?
Yeah.
Porsche. So if Porsche ever partners with Ferrari, are we seeing a conflict of interest?
Oh, interesting. I don't know. I mean, he has 2 Ferraris. I don't know how many Ferraris Ferrari expects him to have.
I think like does Ferrari just give them out to their peoples?
That's what I think. Like, okay, that's another question. Do you think he's actually purchased them, or they were gifted? Or if it's, I think like,
probably one of the Ferraris was gifted. I think the other one was probably heavily discounted. And I don't know about the Porsche.
Because something that I don't think maybe a lot of people know, but maybe you all do know, is that when the drivers are traveling and stuff, and you see them in like Monaco with a really fancy car, typically tied to the brand. So the boys generally drive McLarens. It's just a loaner, obviously. They're not like.
But Daniel Ricciardo does own a McLaren now, doesn't he?
I think he does now, yeah. But I think it's like in LA. Like I don't know if he would ship his car around all over the world. I feel like that's. I mean, maybe.
Well, he has houses in both places.
You're right. He probably would. Why not? Oh my gosh, it's absolutely just over the top. The other headline I found, which I think was interesting, is Formula One bans military air displays at Grand Prix, and this is from the BBC. I made a note here. I'm sure people have opinions about the military. I definitely do. I just don't understand why we need militaries, to be honest. I just think it's a bit much. And I also think that the like air shows are like really weird because it's like a weird show of like patriotism that I don't understand. It's not something I grew up in, like in the States, it's really common to feel so patriotic. But in Canada, we like care about hockey, we care about being multicultural. We don't care so much about military air shows. But according to the article, flybys and other demonstrations by military aircrafts have been pretty common at these races. I think we saw them. I feel like
the Italian GP
I was
had
gonna say the Italian GP is the
because
one
they leave all the smoke behind them,
and it's the color of the flag, right?
Yeah.
Like it's really beautiful. But though I thought the reason why they would not want to have a military display is because it's just awkward. It's because Formula One is aiming to be carbon neutral by 2030, and those displays don't actually help move them
the
in
environment. No, they do not.
So there's that. And then I scrolled through the articles because they were just talking about, Formula One's goals when it comes to emissions and carbon and their footprint and all that kind of stuff. At the very, very bottom, there was this note. There is also a concern. The displays can be used to make geopolitical statements which F1 does not want to be associated with. Which again, I also understand because I think it's weird. That's like my hot take for the day. I promise nothing else will be hot takey. What do you think? Are we going to miss it? I don't know. I will say I did like seeing the Italian flag that way. I thought it was pretty.
I mean, I think like, I don't know. I'm used to like that being, it's a thing in Calgary too. Like they get the fighter jets going over like McMahon Stadium and stuff. I don't know. I won't miss it. I don't think if it's not there, but I think I'm just indifferent. Convince me either way.
I will say it leads to very cool photos. So maybe that's the piece that will be missing.
So the whole like, what were they saying? Geopolitical. Like, yes. It could also, I wonder if like, because of course we know the social aspects that like some of the drivers are fighting for, like the LGBTQ rights.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they could do that flight too. And that'd be, I mean, good for F1, but they don't want to be associated with anything. Cowards.
Okay, I'm calling them cowards. Agreed. I will also say cowards. But you're right. That would be a good one. I think there's ways to use those planes to show solidarity rather than
at the Montreal GP. I mean, like you could also make a political statement and do orange coming out of there. Orange is a very powerful color right now for the Indigenous community in Canada.
That's true. Also, side note about the Montreal GP, every person that I watch on YouTube is going to the Montreal GP.
Damn. But are they coming to Vancouver for Formula E? Okay. We have those tickets, Shanika.
Yeah. And to be honest, y'all, like Caitlin and I did not even think about going to the Montreal Grand Prix. Like, I feel like you and I were both like, oh, if we go to a Grand Prix, we're going to travel. Like, we're going to go to like Mexico, wherever else in the world. We just didn't think to come to Canada. And then all of the people I know in real life are going to the Montreal Grand Prix. And then a good portion of the people we watch on YouTube, like Aldous and Tomo and all of them are heading to the Montreal Grand Prix. And I'm like, whoops. We were not paying attention when the tickets were on sale. It's not our fault. It's
no
fine.
Montreal, I'm sorry, it's just not top of my mind like ever.
See, it's not like I love Montreal. I think it's beautiful, but in terms of Grand Prix, it's definitely not the first place I'd want to visit. So I don't know, but you know what? I'm definitely going to have a lot of FOMO when I see everyone just posting photos from the.
Well, one day we'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. The next headline I found is, I want your hot take on this, but it's Mercedes engine head Hodgkinson to join Red Bull in May after team agrees to release date. And this is from Formula One itself. This really surprised me. So I guess that he got the job. I'm using air quotes, like no one can see it. If you're listening, you can't see it. About a year ago. And then it's just been like negotiations to figure out when he can be released from his contract. But I'm really surprised, Caitlin, because like non-competes are a thing. You know what I mean? So yes, it's taken a year-ish, maybe a little bit longer to get to a place where he can like now go to the team. And even then it's like still a couple months. I'm just so surprised because I worked at a nonprofit and they still, when I got laid off, they like gave me a non-compete. And
like I don't know, that it is
it's weird.
Very interesting. I think probably in those year-long discussions there were a lot of like behind the scenes agreements. And it's interesting because we know like Honda's engine won't be powering Red Bull next year.
Yeah.
So to have the main competitor's engine head literally come over to your company now, it's like interesting. Like why is Mercedes okay with this? What are they getting out of this deal is kind of what I'm wondering.
Yeah, and that's what wasn't clear. So when I was reading the article, just trying to see, you know, what the negotiations looked like, it just had the announcement of when he was going to leave. And then also just a little background. So like Caitlin said, he signed to Red Bull as soon as, you know, Honda announced that they weren't going to stay and they were going to leave. But the rest of the article was just about other promotions that were happening at Mercedes, like who was moving into what seat after. But there wasn't any clear distinction of like, obviously they're not going to tell us what they negotiated, but I just was surprised that there wasn't more on it, I guess, because I mean, we saw what happened with McLaren and, you know, those documents on the engines being leaked. And that's a total different situation, obviously, sort of. But like, I just wouldn't think it would be a good idea for anyone to lose such a powerful member of their team,
go straight to the direct competition.
Yeah, and then to not have a non-compete that's longer than a year. Like I've seen non-competes be like sometimes 2 years, sometimes longer than that. So yeah, I just think it's so weird because this guy's probably been around too for them Mercedes building the new engine, right? And like the new, you know, the new era that we're in, which is not the hybrid era. So this just feels weird. I don't know.
Like I wonder, and I don't know how feasible this even is, but like with part of the agreement from Mercedes is then be like, okay, so you can go to Red Bull, but like you cannot bring up or be involved in discussions concerning X piece
for like X amount of time, maybe. I don't
know.
I have no idea. So if anyone actually knows how this works out, please tell us, because like I said, I've gotten non-competes like across the board from everything from nonprofits to like even like some startups I've seen non-competes. So I'm just really surprised that
it's a very interesting like agreement.
Yeah. And also that it took them this long to negotiate it like means something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume some tense conversations between Christian Horner and Toto Wolff were involved, and maybe his lawyers. Okay, the next headline is something exciting. Actually, speaking of places we'd like to travel to for Formula One, Colombia is the latest country eyeing an F1 race, and this is via I said Plantant, and that's wrong. It's Planet F1. Oh God, his name is President
Is it
Duque? That's what I was gonna say, but I wasn't sure.
Duque? There's no accent.
There's no accent. Yeah, that's the issue. Okay, well, the president said a semi-urban track could be built in the port city of
Barranquilla?
There we go, Barranquilla. Caitlin, brilliant. On the north coast of Colombia, with the city's mayor Jamie Pumarejo, yeah. Having it, and he has also offered his support for the idea of having a Colombia Grand Prix. But of course, he also acknowledged that the city would need to make changes to facilitate a race if it was to happen in the future. But he's also said that there's conversations already happening, so Colombia could be on the map.
I love that. I love that so much. If we could go to the Colombian GP, I'd be down for that.
I would 100% travel for that. Like, I would really, really enjoy that. But this also makes me wonder, do you think okay, so obviously this feels like it's probably 2 to 5 years away until they could actually get a track up and ready and going and contract signed. I guess my thing is, do you think it's going to add another race to the year, or just like take the place of another track that ends up with a contract that ends? Or
Yeah, I wonder if like those will be the conversations they have to have, because I think they're at the point where 23 races, people are starting to push back on that.
yeah.
So we know we know what the fixed races are. I think COVID is going to be hopefully stop affecting races going forward. But so it's kind of like, how do you play that, and where would Colombia slip in? Like when they had it was 2020, had all the shuffles, right?
Yeah.
There was like Tuscan GP, they had the Paris Eiffel GP or something. And those were one-offs, but they do have to be like, these tracks have to be accredited to be an F1 circuit. So I wonder if Colombia would like do that step, and maybe be a one-off, or if they're waiting for other contracts to go out and then negotiate if they could persuade perhaps F1 to like choose them over that other contract. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually don't know how this is going to work. And my concern went exactly where your brain went, which is there are so many races already in a season, and it's a pain in the ass, like, frankly. And as viewers in Canada, it's also equally as exhausting. But if Formula One's trying to reach their like carbon neutral goals, like, how do you meet that if you're again traveling all over the place? And I just don't know. And then of course comes the cost, right? Like you said, if COVID is still impacting things in any way, then these countries and cities can't actually make back the money that they would have made through just like tourism that comes with Formula One. So
Because how much were we approximating it to cost every year for these circuits to
I feel like I don't remember the cost to
was
build,
it like
but
40 million euro or something?
yeah, it's something like that to Formula
Pay
One.
that pay FIA.
Yeah.
Or pay Formula One, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then like there's maintenance and upkeep and staffing costs on top of that.
Exactly. So how do you, I have just no idea. And then also the countries that do have them right now, it's like, are you willing to give that up, especially if you're in a multi-year contract and after the last few years, you haven't had a race in your country because of COVID? Like, I just don't know where they would fit in the calendar without like a lot of people being upset that there's another one because it's exhausting, or it hurting their goals to be carbon neutral, or I just don't know. And I know this sounds like a damper, like it's exciting because we'd love to see Colombia on the map, but like logistically and also like mental health wise, like I don't know how you make it work.
Yeah, I think like they have some, if they're going to entertain this, there's going to be some big decisions involved. But yeah, I think I'd go to Colombia over Montreal.
That's true. It is farther, and we like any opportunity to travel. My last headline from the week is sort of tied to Formula One, sort of not, but it's actually tied to what got us into Formula One, which is Netflix taps Drive to Survive producer for a tennis series. And this is from Front Office Sports. So as you know, Drive to Survive has been monumental for Formula One in the North American market. Netflix, like, quote unquote, took a chance just to see, what could we do? They said they'd do one season. Obviously, we're on to season 4 right now. And it's just been so successful and mutually successful. So great for Netflix, but also great for the sport. And it didn't surprise me at all that they were like reaching out to the producer to say, hey, like, what other sport can you make seem sexy? Like, what other options are there? So yeah, it looks like to quote the article, with the success of Drive to Survive, which you just discussed, and Michael Jordan's, the Michael Jordan focused docuseries, The Last Dance, which also is very good if you haven't seen that. There now will be a tennis series, which I'm going to say, since they're kind of thinking about it right now, what I wish is that they were already filming it. Because could you imagine them filming like all the stuff that happened with what's his name?
Djokovic
Yeah.
situation in Australia?
Like
maybe
that I would love on film.
I know, right? Maybe they're catching like airport surveillance cams for that.
Maybe, or like do like a post, if they start filming this soon, they can do like a post, like get his thoughts on everything afterwards. I don't know, because as we know, that's been dominating a lot of the headlines because dude just wasn't vaccinated. People just get vaccinated if you can. Like, come on. And the producer is also Netflix, sorry, not the producer, but Netflix is also working on a series tied to the PGA Tour as well. and it's going to be modeled after Drive to Survive too. So
interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's I'm really excited. I don't know. I think it's a good way to get more people into sports, and I really like, I mean, girl, I'm one of those people that enjoys golf now. Like I'm not saying I'd watch golf, but like I enjoy playing golf. So even having one about golf and like Naomi Osaka, following her around, I'd love to see that. Why not?
So I'm gonna offer a different point of view.
Okay.
Because so like Formula One is seriously like, it was, I bet you if they had numbers for it, it was like very much not in the North American market, and like Netflix reigns king in North America, more so I think than anywhere else in the world. But like tennis and golf are prominent enough here. I like golf more so than tennis, but like in Canada we started having like a few good players, and like I would listen into the updates to be like, oh, how'd they do? And yeah, you have like Naomi Osaka now, who's like gained a huge following in North America. So I don't think it'll have the same
impact,
steep incline of interest in the sports. I get why they're picking those two though. They are individuals, so you can focus on individuals again, like you're kind of doing with F1, right?
Yeah. But I love your like, but we'll see.
I'm not excited for either. But if it does well, that's good.
See, you know, we may be the best of friends, but we have completely different opinions on things, and that's just how it happens.
Yeah. It's like so my head went to like, what else is in common in North America? I'm very selfishly about North America apparently right now. Yeah. And I'm like, so cricket is not huge, like it's not here at all.
No,
right?
That's true.
So I'm like, that could have been a great opportunity to introduce it to this market as well, but it's a team thing. So I don't know if Netflix could deal with doing this kind of like show with a team aspect, to be honest. Because like part of what got us really into Drive to Survive in F1 is like getting to know all the players, right?
Yeah.
Versus, right? Versus there's too many people involved with like all these big teams and like multiple big teams.
Yeah.
So I get why they're choosing those sports. I don't think they'll be as effective as Formula One. I could be totally wrong, but I think they're already in the market. So
that's actually a very good point, because if you look at like you said, tennis and golf, there is like, you're focusing on one player, which helps the storyline and to help someone feel invested. But then you're right. If you look at cricket, there's like millions of players. It's not millions, but like there are dozens of players. I was trying to think of any other sport that we don't know that well. And I would say like something like rugby, but then you run into the same problem, right? Where it's like,
it's teams again.
Yeah, there's too many players. So how do you tell a good story arc when there's that many versus like when you have two people that maybe have internal strife with their own team?
Like honestly, you know what else they could do? They could do like sailing or something, like obscure everywhere pretty much. And like I know like competitive sailors can be like teams of one or two or a big team, but like that would be fun to see, like something we haven't really
never
no exposure to in the middle of Canada. If you're from a particular part of Ontario, yes, I understand that sailing is a part of your life. But in general, rest of Canada is not really exposed.
Yeah. I also think you could probably do something similar with like surfing.
Surfing would I'm in. Netflix,
I was also thinking
a good idea.
The X Games, like there's probably something tied to that. I know the X Games are actually on like yesterday or something.
Yeah, Mark McMorris.
How do you do?
We're giving you a round of applause. I see you got another gold. Proud of you.
Didn't we see Mark McMorris in person?
We did. Do you want to say that? Let's put the story officially on the podcast because I'm proud of it.
I don't remember.
We were at Calgary Stampede, you guys.
Oh, okay? They were okay. We were at Stampede. I was like, we were at
Calgary Stampede. We were standing outside of Nashville North tent. Right? Yeah, it was like, I don't know, it was pretty late. And then we see Mark McMorris and someone walk out. Because he was Stampede Marshal that year.
Caitlin says but we didn't see him. Like he recognized him right away, and no one else that we were with.
And we like, I kind of like knew that Mark McMorris was around town because he was Stampede Marshal that year.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of like clicked that, oh, that guy is Mark McMorris. So I just like stupidly and very drunkenly yell out like, Mark McMorris, you're my hero. And he just like comes up to me, like gives me a big like thumbs up smile and like squeezes my shoulder. And I was like, I'm touched by greatness. So yes, Mark McMorris, proud of you.
Yeah. And he walked by and I remember thinking, oh my God, that happened. And I don't know if like there was where we were, because it's Stampede people, that's like busy. There's like people walking around. And then I shit you not, like talk about delayed reaction. There was like someone behind us or around us that was like, was that Mark McMorris? And I was like, yeah, that was Mark McMorris. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It was Mark McMorris.
Next time he comes around Stampede, we'll know for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I follow him on TikTok and his brother. They're both very good. And it's like, it really gets you deep into the snowboard TikTok side.
Hi, Caitlin, me snowboarding, babe. We got one.
Oh, I'm not snowboarding, but I think they're really good.
They're very talented. That's true. And I love we're going on this rant, but we just shout out a Canadian boy. So he, for those who don't know, he got into a very bad accident and came back into the sport to win some medals, do some great things. So
he had his really big accident, I think, before the last Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And he literally almost died, you guys. Like Mark McMorris is our age, so he's born in 93, and he almost freaking died.
Yeah. We're not
from a snowboarding incident. Yeah. And then he got like, it wasn't even that far before. And he literally gets back and wins a bronze at the Olympics. After like threatening incident. Crazy. It was like incredible. And it was just like, oh, he's a guy, they're from Saskatchewan, the flattest place you could ever think of.
So I think this is the whole like nurture versus nature. Like maybe he was just born to do it. He was
born for this. Yes. And his girlfriend, actually, we're going to go back to surfing because his girlfriend is Coco Ho and she's a really good surfer.
I'm gonna go look her up.
They're actually really cute together. I do approve of them. And then like you'll see she comes like to snowboard in Canada and he'll like go down to Hawaii to surf. Well, he looks kind of good, don't you?
Cute, y'all. Love to see it. Love to see people like happy and in love and that do like very similar sports but just in very different terrain,
right? Yeah. But like they were brought together through sport, I think, likely.
Love it.
Anyways, okay, so we got on this topic because of X Games, and Shanika was bringing up the X Games because we were talking about sports in Netflix shows, right?
Yeah, I think X Games would be a good one.
Yeah, that could be fun, and they could do like winter sports and summer sports. So,
and it'd be very intense. So that adrenaline piece that's like in Formula One is also there. There's also like the money side. Sponsorship is so important in any extreme sport. So. But I think that's what's going to be weird because it's like primarily Red Bull
for a hot second, because Red Bull sponsors like almost all those extreme athletes.
Maybe Red Bull just needs like a docuseries, like a docuseries on the behind the scenes of how it functions, and maybe in the future they'll do like a House of Gucci version.
If they put it on Netflix, it'll gain a lot of traction. If they just put it on YouTube or something, it won't have the same effect.
No, I completely agree. So anyways,
those are our ideas.
Those are all the headlines I pulled this week. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. Like we're still waiting. Shanika and I were saying probably like we'll know more in February about all these car launches. So we'll talk about those when they're available. But we've had a few dates announced from a few teams for those. So exciting. Yeah.
And it seems like the majority are like in the middle to end of February. So we'll have to wait like everyone else.
Like what I've also seen some headlines this week about like, I don't know if it's just like the whole like, confirmation bias thing or like I read one thing and then I keep getting articles about it. It might be that, but I've seen a lot of headlines out there about like Lewis Hamilton is distancing himself from Toto Wolff in all these like rumors amidst his retirement.
Okay.
No, I haven't actually read them. I just literally see the title come up. I'm like, this is not what I want to read today. I want to see a cohesive Mercedes family. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess that's the giant question mark, hey, that's still happening is that we don't know.
We still don't have an answer. Yeah.
Yeah, they did post a photo of him, though, I think, getting into one of the cars, I thought, but I couldn't tell if it was new or old. You know what I mean? See, the social team has been posting a lot of old photos of Lewis, so it's hard to tell what's going on there. I really hope he doesn't retire. I really hope he doesn't retire.
Yeah, me too. The sport would suffer if he did.
Yeah, and to go out like that, like I just really, really want him to not retire.
Anyways, we like Courtney and I did a big kind of deep dive last week about it. So to avoid reiterating ourselves and like just depressing ourselves at this point, we'll bring him up again when he's probably spoken out. That'll be a big episode, I think.
Yeah, because we'll definitely just try and decipher everything that's happening. But yeah, I don't know. You're right. Let's not be depressed. I am a little depressed, but I won't be anymore.
Let's keep moving on then. We got some exciting stuff coming up. We're going to do an ad break, but then we're getting to Georgie.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Quick ad break with ATB. ATB Cares, giving is easy. Donate through ATB Cares and ATB will match 20% of every dollar donated to eligible Albertan charities, maximizing the impact of your donation. Visit atbcares.com to choose your cause and donate today. That's very good. That's exciting stuff.
I know we like any business that gives back to just any organization. And something that is super exciting, Caitlin, it's Aquarius season. It is.
Well, okay, it's exciting. It's also depressing because Capricorn season's over. It was supposed to hold so much promise. I was like, oh, it's a great time. It's like holiday season, New Year's, and then it turned out to be kind of shit. So I'm upset Capricorn season
did not live up to the hype.
Yes. Yeah. New beginnings with Aquarius season. And Aquarius are really known for like, so keywords, thank you, Cafe Astrology, are individualistic, assertive, independent, humanitarian, inventive, original, eccentric, opinionated, intellectual, idealistic, cool, friendly, and detached. Think about the Aquarius people you know in your life.
Okay, I was thinking about this. I don't know that many Aquarius people. Like, I can only think of my old roommate. I think she was an Aquarius. And do we know any other Aquariuses?
We're going to shout out our friend Lauren.
Lauren. I was going to say, I think Lauren, but I wasn't sure. She
is very smart and she thinks outside the box. I think she kind of like embodies Aquarius too. So, okay, knowing that, typical Aquarius, sign of Aquarius is forward-looking and growth-oriented, generally very clever, witty, and intellectual.
Love to see it. And that is definitely Lauren. So
exactly. And I have a feeling it's pretty Georgie too. Georgie, he's born on the 15th of February, 1998. So he's like almost cuspy.
Okay.
To Pisces, but not quite.
Sorry,
I think he's
you
still
just like struck me by saying 1998. Oh my God. He's born in 1998.
I know. Yeah. So
I'm fine. Everything is fine.
And he's driving, like he has one of the 20 spots in the world for fastest cars, and he's literally 5 years younger than us, but that's fine. So that's almost a Valentine's baby. I guess he gets to celebrate both, which is fun. So he took up karting in 2006. So that's probably like 7-8 years old. And he got up to the Formula Renault 2.0 Alps series in his first single-seater series by 2014. So he's also in 2014 did 2 races in the Euro Cup Formula Renault 2.0 Championship. Those races were in Moscow. Sorry. Know what happened there. Moscow and Juarez. So I think that's the Mexican one. So in Juarez, he won the race actually after starting from pole. So
good for him.
He's kind of showing up pretty early in his career, making a name for himself. So that same year, again, 2014, he was in the Formula 4 Championship with Latin Racing. So he started from pole, and in the deciding final race, he won the championship, 3 points over his teammate Arjun Maini.
Oh no.
As a prize for this series win, he tested a Series GP3 car with Arden Motorsport at the Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi. So all this is from Wikipedia, by the way, folks. So that's my little shout out. Thanks, Wiki. And by December 2014, Russell became the youngest ever to win the McLaren Autosport British Racing Drivers Club Award. So he beat out Alex Albon in that.
Sorry, it's not funny. Alex, you're still a good driver.
I know. But they like it kind of shows too, like they've grown up together, right?
Yeah.
They know each other pretty well.
Their whole careers.
So Georgie won some serious cash with that award. It was like £100,000. By the time he's what, 14, 15, 13, 14, 15, he has £100,000 win.
What's so insane though is like up until this point in his career, when he started, at 7 or 8, he still wasn't signed to a driving school. So for those who don't know, I am doing a little piece on Sebastian Vettel. Don't worry, it's coming. But Seb was signed to a driving school, the Red Bull one, like pretty early. So
Is that just like a generational thing though, or are
that's what
those
I'm
still a
trying to
thing?
figure out. Yeah, it seems like it might be a generational thing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anyways.
Okay. Yeah. So folks, we will announce when this episode is coming up, but I'm excited to hear it. Shanka's doing a lot of research, so we're leaving that one with her, and we will all learn a whole bunch of stuff about Seb, our homeboy Seb. Okay, so also, sorry, going back to winning this McLaren award, he actually got an F1 test with McLaren as part of the prize, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's huge.
So by February 2015, he was one of the 12 drivers selected to join this British Racing Drivers Club Superstars program. Again, youngest ever recruit. Like, he's making a name for himself in the industry.
Pretty early on.
So he was in F3 by 2015 with Carlin. He won Silverstone ahead of Charles Leclerc, also in his debut year. And he won ahead of Giovinazzi, which is interesting because we know Gio's our year, right?
Yeah, like Gio. So for those who may not know, Gio is like as old as Caitlin and I. So he's like 27,
so he's
28.
a 93 baby.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgie's beating him as a 98 baby. So
5 years younger. That's
interesting.
Hurts the ego a little.
A little.
But
anyways, Georgie wins also at Spa and the Norris Ring in Germany. He ended up 6th in that championship series that year. But also in 2015, he did the Masters of F3 series, which he came in. He did one race. He came in second. He continued F3 2016, came in third in the standings, so getting up there. And in 2017, he kind of went like the horizontal way, and he went to GP3. And he was with Art Grand Prix, and he won GP3 championship that year. Early 2017, he joined Mercedes as part of their junior driver program. And the F1 practice, his F1 practice debut was that year at the Brazilian GP. And he drove in FP1 for Force India.
Oh my gosh, we need to do an episode one day on Force India.
Just like, do that. That can be
like, it's chaos.
And then also he did I think he drove FP1 at the Abu Dhabi GP that year as well.
Cool.
So by 2018, he's up in F2 with Art Grand Prix, and he's actually also announced as the Mercedes reserve driver. He won the championship that year after a season-long fight with our homeboy Lando. So by May 2018, he was announced as, I thought this was an interesting fact, he was announced as one of Pirelli's tire test drivers, and he did it for Force India post-Spanish GP that year.
Okay.
So his first year in F1 was 2019, and as we know, it was with Williams. He partnered with Robert Kubica. He got no points, but not surprising, that car was...
Yeah, the Williams was...
They say it was the slowest in the field. Okay, yeah, fair enough. 2020, he was still with Williams, but as we know, he did that Mercedes stint at the Shakir GP because Lewis had COVID. So a bit more story on that. Most of us know what happened or saw what happened from Drive to Survive, but Georgie qualified in P2. He barely missed out on that pole position to Valtteri. But the drama that happened was the Mercedes mechanics fitted the wrong tires on Russell during his pit. So they actually put Bottas's tires on Russell's car. Right. So Russell had to repit after that, which kind of sucks because he was leading before that and it was only 20 laps to go. He then had a puncture with 10 laps to go and was forced to pit again. So he got his first ever F1 World Championship points though that race. He did get P9, so that's 2 points. And he at 1 point, and he got 2 points for that, and he also got a fastest lap point. So it's kind of like us imagining the Lando situation with Fresha, like it was in his grasp.
He just
like
lost.
The world was in his hand, and it just like extenuous circumstances just crumbled that.
Yeah. And I think what's so interesting is up until this point, I really wonder, and maybe you know this, when did like obviously Mercedes became part of the conversation
So it was
in
early
2018,
2017 he joined Mercedes.
in early 2017.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's when he joined a program in 2017, which is
Yeah. Unless there was one before that, Wiki didn't tell me.
that is so much later than what we've seen before, which is actually maybe a good thing if this is the norm now where kids aren't getting signed at like 5, like they're
To
sold.
like to a program even. But
Yeah.
like if we do this on the other young drivers, I wonder what we would see. Like Mick being part of Ferrari. How long's he been with Ferrari for?
I don't even know, but I think that he's like a lifer, I would assume, right? Who
Yeah, like
knows?
do they snatch up Schumacher's son as soon as he can walk or drive? I don't know.
I would if I were them.
He is an Aries. I'm pretty sure, Mick. So when we get to Aries season,
We'll talk about him.
expect a Mick episode.
I also think what's interesting is so throughout his wild career, for Georgie, one of the things that you hear a lot about him is just how marketable he is. So I wonder like when people started realizing that of course he's talented, but he's going to be world champion and he's going to bring in a lot of money. Like, I don't know when that turning
I
point.
wonder if it's like I can see that if you get into F2 for your first year and you win that in your first year, like you are part of that pretty exclusive club and people can see you doing very well.
Yeah. I don't know.
But it may be even before that too. Like if you're going to get signed by Mercedes, you're going to have to show that you're worth driving with Mercedes, right?
That's true.
So yeah, like they have scouts, I think, at every single series to watch how the drivers are doing. So
and then Bram hopefully over.
and like kid has charisma up the freaking yin yang. Like I give him props for that. Like he talks very well. He has a good like he has a I don't want to say egotistical, but he has like a self-assured aura to him.
Yeah.
So I think all that plays in. Like if you're saying like, well, if I'm going to go to this series, like I'm going to do pretty well. Like I think I could win this. You could maybe sell yourself to some of these sponsors too. So, or his parents could.
Right? Like there's no mention of like money struggles in the story so far. So
that never came up, but I mean, should I have looked it up? Maybe. Sorry.
Hey, that's okay.
But yeah, I think like Netflix Drive to Survive, like they definitely highlighted people like Esteban Ocon, who had like the family was not as well off as a lot of these other ones. So they highlighted that, and like the Lewis Hamilton story is pretty prominent out there. So I feel like if it's like that, it would have come out
pretty publicly. Yeah, at least even through the show or something.
Otherwise, it's probably, I bet you, just status quo, like the rest of the drivers, like a significant amount of money involved.
Goddamn.
So yeah, in this past season, so 2021, we saw Georgie shine as much as possible in that car as he possibly could have. He came in 15th in the driver standings, which is pretty exceptional for the Williams. He had 16 points and a first ever F1 podium finish. Spa. 2021.
Oh my gosh, the chaos that was Spa, the race that never happened. Jesus.
Something I didn't know happened, and I noted like it must have started right before we did this podcast. It was in March 2021. So yeah, it literally like the month before we did this podcast. But Georgie actually he was appointed director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association. So as director, he's one of 4 representatives. So Seb is one. Seb's been a representative since 2010. Georgie now. There's a legal advisor. She's new this year. This past year, Anastasia Fowl. And then there is the chairman, Alexander Wurz, and he's been in that position since 2014. So Georgie actually came into this position to replace Romain Grosjean. Yeah. And this whole association is the trade union for F1 drivers, pretty much. But membership is not compulsory, apparently. There's a time when Michael Schumacher, I was reading up on it and completely like only half stuck in my brain, but like he opted not to join the association for a few years for some reason.
That's so interesting because don't unions only work if everyone joins? Because that's how you get power. Like,
but I think like to have a union is to have union power regardless. Like, and the people that don't enter it just don't have a lot of that protection, maybe. But
maybe.
they're also not in your constraints either.
Yeah.
So
I think it's interesting that it took them this long to replace Roman because Roman's not been in a Grand Prix.
he was in there for 2020. So if in March 2021, right before I guess the first race,
Yeah.
knowing Roman would not come back, then Georgie took his place.
Damn. Okay.
So I guess like we'll see how long Georgie stays there, but
It's a good experience if Sab's been there for
I think
like
so. Yeah.
10, 11 years. Show how you can be a leader elsewhere. It's always good.
So, and it's also like more visibility across the sport.
Exactly. More opportunity.
So that's where he stands right now. 2022, we all know where he's headed. He's at Mercedes, but he's all over their social media. So,
yeah. Georgie is at Mercedes right now. So if you head to their socials, you can see like
literally just him shining, basking in the glory.
Basking in the glory of being at Mercedes. And
so we'll see how he does.
Him testing, he's testing right now too. So there's some content there, but I don't know. I guess the question is, Caitlin, knowing the Aquarius, I mean, we don't know anyone's full charts, to be honest. Like we don't know what time they were born. So a lot of what we do is like guesstimating.
Hey, you can look it up on the internet, but I'm like, how do you know?
No, right? Like
who's getting the time of birth to you?
Exactly. But knowing that Toto is a Capricorn, knowing that Lewis is also a Capricorn, and knowing that Valtteri was
a Virgo.
Oh, is a Virgo, but like when he was on the team, that was played more into the dynamics. He's still alive, don't worry. How do you think this like Aquarius energy is gonna what do you think it's gonna do? That's
a very good question. So I think like the Aquarius energy is gonna bring about a lot of reform to Mercedes, which is also tied into like the car having to change for 2022. Like he's going to be the new face of Mercedes. Definitely, assuming Lewis retires this year or next year. But I think team dynamics will be interesting because Valtteri was a mutable earth sign and he worked well with the 2 cardinal earth signs. But yeah, I think like they can make it work for sure. I think communication and expectations have to be set and have to be firm to be like, Georgie, like we know you want to try this, we know you want to like expand this program or something and like make this big change, we know that you have a vision, but like the team vision is to get Lewis's 8th championship first. Okay, and you have to be part of that. And I think like to appease Toto, Georgie definitely would be like, oh totally, I can be a team player, and he would do that. But then like if it starts to like edge on like 3-4 years, let's just put a very hypothetical number out there, I think like Georgie would start to throw a fuss. He'd be like, no, like we need to start changing stuff, like priorities need to change. He'd be a bit more vocal. That's how I see that dynamic happening. But it won't be as easy as it was with Valtteri.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the lesson for sure, is that I don't think it'll be as easy as it has been with Valtteri. And I also think even with them probably having the conversation, obviously we don't know where Lewis is at, but having the conversation of, like Lewis to want him to win the 8th, we want to win, the constructors, blah, blah, blah. I also think it might be difficult if you're racing and you're about to beat your teammate. Like, I don't know whether George will give in to team orders as easily if it's happening consistently, you know what I mean, throughout a season.
And like people have said, like we don't know how they actually compare in the same car because he took Lewis's spot in Shakir and he was fast.
Yeah.
If he like, I want to say that like obviously Lewis is going to be faster because just how good he is, and he's showing us at Brazil like he can just like leave everyone in his dust. But can he do that to Georgie if Georgie's in the same car? I don't know.
I don't know either. And that becomes a big question.
Yeah.
So Mercedes, it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do if?
Yeah, because you can't hold a guy back for 23 races. Like that's.
You can't also be like, okay, well, Lewis DNF'd now, and like now go drive. Like that's not going to work either, right? So
no.
I don't know. I wonder if they'll even keep the 2 driver thing, because we talked about it, I think, a few weeks ago, but Ferrari, Matteo Benito said they're not they don't have a second driver. Like both of the boys are driving and that's just what it is. And they'll make a call like when it comes to it, you know, if they're right behind one another, like what
you know what, good on Carlos. Carlos came in his seat number 2, but now that like he's changed,
he's shown himself.
They're going equal.
Yeah, like so it makes you like kind of wonder what is going to happen at Mercedes. If I don't think George is coming in there thinking he's going to be driver number 2. Like they're priming.
I wonder if he thinks he'll be driver 2 for this year,
and he'll be okay being on the back foot at least for one season
for this year. Yeah. Because like you get pros of coming to Mercedes and partnering with Lewis Hamilton. You're literally partnered with Lewis Hamilton, right? Like you get all that experience, and if you play nice with him, right, like you could get a whole bunch of knowledge from this guy.
So if we look at Valtteri and Valtteri, I want to say I'm a Valtteri fan. I really love Valtteri. Did you see the photo he posted on Instagram, by the way?
Dude, the one where he's like upside down with the sun.
Like he's doing like I think it was like mid cartwheel.
He's a very open guy, as we know. Like he was in the sauna in Drive to Survive. Just
butt naked. Anyways, so back to what I was saying. Yep. So with Valtteri, he was really great at qualifying. In fact, like better than Lewis at qualifying, but on race day, he really just struggled with consistency. So my hope, or I guess the hope that Mercedes would have, is that George could also qualify as high as Valtteri's done, but then bring that consistency that they've really lacked all season with, you know, whoever Lewis was partnered with. I think
I do think like George is a very strong driver. I have a hypothesis he'll be consistent, but
yeah, I'm just hoping he can pick up that car fast, because as we've seen, obviously Daniel Ricciardo is a different age, and we're not being ageist because Fernando Alonso has come in and kicked ass. So don't know what's going on with Danny Rick there, but
it's the setup of the car, right? Like he's never been in the Ferrari car before, but like Alonso's been in the
McLaren, the McLaren car.
Sorry, yes, you know what I mean. Alonso's been in the Renault, which is now Alpine, so like he knows that basic car at least.
Yeah, and like you said, George was in the Mercedes and has been in the Mercedes and has driven for Mercedes and literally nearly beat Valtteri on qualifying. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the energy's like at the team.
I mean, it'll be very interesting for us to try and like read between the lines the whole season and see how things are going down.
Or just like wait for Drive to Survive season 5.
No, we're going to have our own hypothesis. We're going to start just like saying what we think. You guys let us know if you agree.
Yeah, I think the dynamic will be good. And I think George will be okay being on the back foot for most of the season, if that means he can learn the car, be in less of a pressure situation. But I do think if it's like, you know how we've seen with Ferrari and like Charles, and if it's like the 1-2 over and over again, I feel like
if it's like the whole like Monza with McLaren, if George is told to be Lando, and like who was obviously faster than Danny Rick in that race and was told not to overpass him, he might be like, okay, once if it's a consistent season-long thing, George is not going to be okay with that.
Absolutely not. So that is the hypothesis we're running with.
I mean, let's see how it all shakes out. I'm excited though. But that's our little rundown on Georgie.
Yeah, and that's this episode, friends. So if you haven't yet, please review our podcast. Actually, you can do that on Apple Podcasts, and I think on Spotify now. You can give us 5 stars, ideally 4 stars. I'll take 2, because that's fine.
No. Tell us, communicate with us first if you want to give us
instead of giving us a 4-star review, tell us what we're doing wrong.
Because I'm pretty sure we have like no ratings on there, so that will hit us like a big semi truck.
And what else? Follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, on Instagram, all at Get Checkered. You can watch this and see me looking like a literal egg because my hair is back in a bun because I have not showered. So I just look like a round face. On YouTube, the channels also Get Checkered. And is there anything else that I'm missing?
I think you got it. And if we missed something, you would have heard it on other podcasts, you guys, other episodes.
Exactly. So Stay checkered, friends. And we'll
Stay checkered. We'll talk to you again next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.